Just 10 miles from the Belarus-Ukrainian border and 62 miles north of the Ukrainian capital of Kiev lies the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. It was commissioned in 1977 as part of the Soviet Union, and by 1984, 4 reactors had entered commercial operation, each capable of producing over 1,000 megawatts of electrical power. Less than 2 miles away from the plant was the city of Pripyat, founded in 1970, just 7 years before the power plant itself. By 1986, it had already grown into a vibrant community with a population of around 50,000. Today, the town lies vacant, save for any workers who help maintain the grounds, the stalkers, or the teenagers who explored the zone, and the wildlife that has slowly trickled back in over the years despite the considerable damage that has been done to the environment. But when did it all change? On April 25th, 1986, the reactor had been shut down as part of a planned maintenance routine. In preparation for a test concerning Reactor 4, the emergency core cooling system had been disabled, but in the meantime, another power station had unexpectedly went offline. To compensate for this, the test was postponed, and during the shift change, the reactor ran for 11 hours without any safety protocols. When the test was finally performed, they had little time to do so, and due to a staff error, the power levels in the reactor suddenly dropped. The operation of the reactor at the low power level and high poisoning level was accompanied by unstable core temperatures and coolant flow, and possibly by the instability of neutron flux. When power levels rose, they continued the test under unsafe conditions, causing an intense power spike, fracturing the fuel rods as the core began to overheat. The reactor jumped to a power level over 10 times that of normal capacity, and Reactor 4 exploded. Firefighters and personnel were on scene shortly after, but the nearby town of Pripyat wasn't immediately evacuated. In an attempt by the Soviet Union to cover up the explosion, it wasn't until an entire day later, on April 27th, that evacuation attempts began, and civilians were told only to bring what was necessary, as they would only be back in just a few days' time. Little did they know that they would never return. Nothing was announced publicly about the accident until April 28th, when radiation levels began to set off alarms at a power plant in Sweden over 1,000 kilometers away. The Swedish government initially asked the Soviet Union, claims of the explosion were denied, and it was only when they threatened to file an alert with the International Atomic Energy Agency that they admitted that a minor incident had occurred. Later that day, they put out an official statement that lasted a grand total of 20 seconds, simply stating that an accident had occurred at the Chernobyl power plant. In the months after the explosion, work began to take place in an attempt to contain the reactor. To clear off the radioactive debris from the roof of the plant, the Soviet Union employed members of the military to do so. These people have since been named the Chernobyl liquidators. Approximately 600,000 people have been named the liquidators, and as of today, around 60,000 of them are dead, and 165,000 of them have been disabled. After the debris was cleared, work began on the sarcophagus. The sarcophagus is a massive dome composed of steel and concrete, designed to contain the radiation emitted from Reactor 4. During this time, other teams of scientists were deployed within the plant to locate and contain leaks of nuclear fuel. After 6 months of exploration, one team of scientists discovered a large, intensely radioactive mass approximately 6 feet and 7 inches long, dubbed the elephant's foot for its radioactive appearance. It was composed of melted sand, concrete, and a large amount of nuclear fuel that had escaped from the reactor. The cleanup continued for 7 months. The exact effects of Chernobyl are hard to estimate. The explosion of Chernobyl alone released over 400 times more radiation than the combined bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Over 161,000 square kilometers of land was contaminated with radiation from the incident, reaching as far as Italy and Scotland. Livestock began being born with multiple heads or limbs, and entire forests died in the surrounding area. The exact death toll is heavily disputed, with some Russian sources saying that approximately 1 million premature deaths can be directly related to the release of radioactivity from Chernobyl. Although difficult to estimate, the approximate socioeconomic impact can be estimated at the hundreds of billions. Belarus alone has estimated their cost to be around $235 billion over the past 30 years. Today, you can visit Chernobyl. Despite the 30-kilometer exclusion zone, the ongoing military conflicts, and the radiation still permeating the area, tours still continue, and some senior citizens even still live in their old houses. Wildlife is returning in swarms, including bears, foxes, wolves, and even the descendants of pets from before the accident. Even with the radiation, these creatures thrive in the wilderness that was once densely populated. Although it may be thousands of years in the future before this land will be habitable again, it goes to show that new life can be found in even the darkest of places.